Lights, camera, and action. Hi, my name is Jay with CompuMatter and ServerMatter. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate to people who need a studio in their home or their small office environment some of the tools that we use to do the videos that we do here at the store, to provide tutorials to our customers on how to do things or to use to sell product. Anyway, thanks for watching. Enjoy the show. All right, let's start by introducing you to my video editor of choice. You know, people tend to use what they know, and probably a decade ago I started using Camtasia, but it was after a long search for what's out there. I've used Adobe Premiere. It's a complex program. It's a professional grade program. I've used DaVinci a little bit. Same thing. In fact, DaVinci is a great free program, probably best in the industry and where a lot of things are headed. But again, huge learning curve. Final Cut Pro, I've not used that product. I hear good things about it. It might be viable. But I have found Camtasia to be a very dependable, user-friendly, approachable, good feature set for the types of things that podcasters and people like myself would normally use. So I can get a video created, cut, and off to YouTube or Facebook rather quickly. The single biggest reason I like Camtasia over DaVinci or Premiere Pro has everything to do with live recording. So right now I'm live recording this. Those two editors, you have to pull your video in, you create your content, and then you bring all the content in there after the fact. You don't have the ability to live record and then drop it right into the editor that you're recording from. And that really quickens the process. I also have the ability to pause the video. Very important. I want to pause it, do something else, dogs barking, phones ringing. Maybe I just have to gather my thoughts. I want to be able to hit a pause button and come back right to where I was and keep on going. And that I can do in Camtasia. Let's give you an example of some of what you can do with a good video editor. We'll drop that into the timeline. Let's say I want to cut out the piece that starts right there and ends right here. I didn't like it. That's when the dog barked, whatever, right? Then we just bring those both together. I come over here to favorites. I'll bring down a fade. We'll drop a fade in there, and this is what you get. Camera and action. In a small office environment, I think this office is... So that's nice and smooth. That's how you can delete a piece out of there. You've got a lot of visual effects. Removal of background for green screen, drop downs, color adjustments, borders, fancy text. You can speed things up, slow things down if you want to do a time-lapse type of a video. Lots of effects. Animations, zoom, pan, behaviors, cursor effects, audio effects. It's all in this. There's a noise removal tool, so if your audio's got a little background static, you need to pull it out, you can drop that in. So Camtasia is my video editor of choice. Once you're done creating the video, you click the export button in the top right corner. You could export it directly to YouTube, but I prefer to save those MP4s locally and upload them myself because I want to keep a local library of all the work I've done over time. If the internet were to die tomorrow and you always did a straight shot to YouTube, you wouldn't have the end content. You'd have to re-export every one of them from scratch. So we would choose export as MP4. Choose where it's going, audio 192 kilobytes per second, encoding I always leave it 75%, I figure anything higher than that. The file size is much larger, but there's not an appreciable difference in quality. In fact, you can't even see the quality. Frame rate is 60 seconds, and the dimensions are pulled off of the first video that you drop in the program. And then you export, creates your MP4, then you upload it to YouTube. All right, so moving past the video editing software, we'll talk a little about the camera. I have used many different kinds of cameras. I have used a lot of different kinds of cameras along the way. I've had every USB webcam that you can shake a stick at. I think Logitech was the best of the best, and I thought they were, and you're always fighting not knowing when you don't know whether it's your camera or it's your lighting or it's your green screen or it's your software. The learning curve is steep, and in some cases, it's all of those things. Well, I have certainly learned that the camera is mission critical. You cannot get by with a webcam, and you should have a 4K DSLR camera. And this has really been the product of many, many iterations, and many of them less expensive. And there are some that are much more expensive. But this gets the job done really well. The camera is called a Blackmagic Pocket 4K Cinema camera. I believe I've got it. It's a very long name. But that 4K is important because it gets a lot of the green screen pixels that are necessary. It refines it. It makes it more accurate. So when you're pulling green screen, it does a better job. I have that camera tied into a Blackmagic ATEM Mini Extreme ISO switcher. And that combination is important because it allows me to control the camera from the ATEM switcher. Let me give you an example of that. So this is the software behind me that controls the keyboard, the ATEM switcher. It's a physical piece, but it can be, you can use the software or you can use the physical piece to control it. An example of that, if I press the #1 key down here, it lowers me. You see the red button over here. Let me bring myself back up again. 2. You see that blink, the on-air light blink. So things are happening here. If I turn myself off, the on-air button goes off. I turn it on, it shows up. So they're in sync with each other. Now, where this comes in handy, if we switch over to cameras, the center cam that you see on the left up here is what I'm looking at right there. And this allows me to control colors. You see, you'll watch my self change here. Okay, and so you can pick what's right without farting around with the camera's controls. In previous incarnations, I had to get up, play with the camera while I'm looking at myself to see if I've got the right version of me. And that's one way of dealing with the camera that's very important. And we'll look at some of these controls on the right. You see foreground, background, key edge. If we alter these, get rid of the key edge, get rid of the background and foreground, you see that's what we're really seeing behind me right now. A few adjustments within the ATEM software control. The advantage of the switcher is I'm able to do this from a piece of software during the period of time that I'm creating the video. More often than not, the people that are just getting into this, or even that have been around it for a while, are creating the video, bringing it into their software, and then removing the green screen after the effect. This really allows you to know just how good or bad the green screen, the job you did with green screen is, before you spent a lot of time recording the video. Let's talk a little bit about lighting. There's a lot of lighting in this room. The office that I am in is probably 10, maybe 13 feet that way by about 10 feet this way, 11 feet this way. It's a fairly small space. And I have invested so much time in different lighting combinations. I've had lighting hang from the ceiling. I've had my back wall one big light. I've had so many different versions of lighting that have finally led to me needing a remote control that I can dim or brighten the light. The light itself has to have super bright capabilities. The power of the sun is ideal. Daylight lighting, for instance. And it needs to be quiet. It needs to run as a fanless. So the more powerful light you get, the louder they tend to be because they need fans to cool them down. I found a product by Godox. I have up front 2 UL60s. I have flooding the green screen, 2 UL150s. I've got a UL60 over my head, and I've got 2 cheap ones. They're not Godox, they're just regular LEDs on the side. The lights on the side and the lights on the top are designed to keep the green perimeter off of my clothing and head as this is being shot. The ones in the front obviously are going to light me up. If I turn off, for instance, the ones in the front, that's what you see. If I turn off the ones in the back, not so bad. You can see a change. Now, this is an example of, we're using a black background right now. This is important for people shooting videos. You can shoot a whole video or part of it and not realize that you're having problems with your green screen background. If I switch this to a white background, now it becomes abundantly clear that we've got a problem, and that's why that light back there needs to be on. It's very important before you actually pull the trigger and start shooting a video that you test it with a black background as well as a white background to pick up any of those inconsistencies. All right, let's talk about sound. A couple of things that are important here. Background noise used to drive me crazy. The least little hum, hiss, people talking outside, whatever it is, you've got to insulate your environment against that to the degree possible. Number one on the list is foam soundproofing, or whatever kind of soundproofing you want to use. You know, it could be that blankets are going to do the job for you. I don't know. But for me, I went out and got the foam tiles and papered my office environment with them. It's actually, when you walk in from outside of my office to the inside of my office, it actually has a cathartic healing property to it. The lack of noise, the way it absorbs your own voice, every single sound, it just makes it feel better before you even start recording anything. But it's a necessity to get soundproofing all the way around your office. You don't need, the walls have echoes, everything has echoes. That takes it out of it, and you'll notice a difference when you do it. Behind that is your choice of microphone and audio mixer, depending on what road you go down. I will tell you that I used to use a USB Blue Yeti microphone that has a great sound. It sits right in front of you on the desk. It's one of those tall podcasting type of mics. So if you like the retro, you like the, you know, the Joe Rogan, the whatever it is, these podcasters, they all have these big mics hanging from the ceiling, coming up from the ground. It's part of every video. I don't really like that. My goal is not to be promoting whatever the microphone, like that's some kind of a special look or whatever. I just want you to hear me in the voice that I was, you know, naturally have. So I don't need you to hear me in a muffled, bassy, you know, formal, soft, whatever that changes my voice and somehow makes it sound better than it really is. I mean, what's that? I want you to sound how, this is how I sound. Making that happen was not easy, and I ended up purchasing a product called a Zoom F6 audio mixer. It's capable of handling up to 6 microphones. I'm only using one right now, but I do see a place in time where I'm going to be interviewing 2 or 3 people at a table, and that way they can all be mic'd up. They'll channel through the same device into the ATEM mixer that I'm using here. The microphone that you match up with that is also important. You can kill whatever that gives you by getting a bad microphone. A bad microphone is not a cheap microphone. That I have found out. I actually purchased a wide variety of lavalier mics. Some of them $250, $300, some of them $15. And I have found, as you're hearing right now, this particular microphone, I think it's a $20 mic. It's two for $50 or $60 or something like that. It's too inexpensive. The quality, the build quality is good, and the sound quality is exactly, and it was superior. I listened. I put the Sennheiser and you know the Rhodes and all these others that are better brands, and next to each, this came out on top. So maybe that's in part because the mixer is of such good quality. So that's my suggestion on sound. Let me add just a little bit more about hisses and buzzes. They can drive you crazy. You can get a background noise that despite good quality equipment, you hear this low level buzz that's in there. Now, for a while there, I took that out with a program called Audacity. I would just and you can do that from within the software. You can export an audio clip from here, MP4 only, and when that's exported, you open a program called Audacity. Okay, we'll bring up a sound file. I'll expand that timeline so we can see what's inside, and this stuff here is noise. And so what we would do is analyze it. Excuse me, we'll go to Effect, Noise Removal and Repair, Noise Reduction. We're going to get the noise profile. So what that's going to do is going to take that little piece and sample it. Now I'm going to select all, which takes this entire file. I'm going to go back to Effect, back to Noise Removal, back to Noise Reduction, and instead of hitting Get Noise Profile, because we've already done that, I'm just going to click OK. Now we could increase some variables in here and tweak that a little bit, but I have found the default works fine. We click OK. It's going to go through that entire file and reduce the noise. You see that sound, that line now? It's much flatter than it was before. So you can't hear it. But that's brain damage, right? You don't want to have to pull your file, your audio file out, export it, import the MP3 back into Camtasia, use it in place of what was there. It's all doable, but what you really want to do is eliminate all the sound. You want it so that your noise level, when you're running a program like Camtasia, to be on 0 or close to it when you're done. So that may require that you have to go through every light, every piece of equipment. You may drive yourself crazy trying to isolate where that is. It may be part of the process if you get stuck with one of those. I did end up buying some isolators, and you end up plugging that into where your output is and your input is. It sits in the middle, and it tries to get the static out of the picture. I'm down to a 0 static situation, so I have solved that problem. Now let's talk a little bit about the green screen itself. Greens, it can be green, it can be red, it can be bright blue. It just can't be what you're wearing. That's how that works. Because you're telling the software to pull out a certain color. All instances of it, turn it to transparent. So a fluorescent green, not everybody's walking around with that one, so it tends to be the go-to, but it can be anything as long as you're not wearing whatever that is. So I've played with a lot of different types of green screens, from a thin cloth to a sponge cloth. And in the end, after years and years of fooling with different variations on green screen and lighting, I ended up going to a hard board. And that means whatever you've got behind you, you want it to be so completely perfect. You don't want wrinkle number 1 in that. And the only way you can do that is with a hard board. So you put a couple of 1/4-inch 4x8 pieces of veneer or whatever it is, or you can use your wall if you've got a wall behind you that you can use, as I did. Mine was textured, so I had a fella come in and mud the whole wall to make it smooth as it can possibly be. And once it was nice and smooth, I applied 3 or 4 coats of green screen paint, and that gave me the look and feel that I have now. And what a difference. Just day one, walking in and looking at that green screen, I could see that the lighting was hitting it. It was being absorbed, and it was even all the way across. I never got that look when I was using a cloth green screen of any kind. So that's my #1 recommendation. Get a hard green screen in the back. Take everything you can out of it. Now, if you're in a small portable environment, that's an impossibility. You've got to roll up something portable. You better have a good quality camera. And maybe that'll pick up the slack. But that's my advice. Let's talk about teleprompting. I don't use a teleprompter very often. I will be once we start moving into the sales mode. Those that are familiar with my channel know I've been working on a server project for years. We're about to release it. It's the main reason that I prepared this studio environment. And when I do, I'm going to be delivering hype on why ours is better and what the feature set is. And I really want to make sure that I get things perfect. I'm not going to want to wing that. And the teleprompter is what you need for that. Now, I built my teleprompter out of cardboard and a couple of small pieces of wood underneath to custom fit my camera. And it's easy enough to do. It's a little imagination. You can buy a teleprompter ready-made and put your camera in it. I'm sure that'll work wonderful too. I've learned a lot about glass. You get glass that's too dark, it's going to darken your whole video. And if you get just a plain piece of glass, you're going to end up with double vision on your teleprompter. So you'll learn these things. You'll want to dig into that a little bit. But the most important thing about teleprompting is the software that you use to deliver the paragraphs on the glass in front of your eyes. In the early days, I had a foot pedal that I could click on, and it would make the text move whenever I was ready to make the text move. So I would keep what I was saying in pace with what I was clicking underneath the table. That worked reasonably well. Other methods includes holding a mouse and scrolling, and then it's jerky, and the customer doesn't see that, the viewer doesn't see that, but it's distracting for you. The number one piece of software that you need to get is a product called PromptSmart. PromptSmart Studio is what I use. And so what's different about that is it has voice recognition, and it's the only product I know that has voice recognition. So as you're talking, it's scrolling. When you pause, it pauses. If you go off topic and talk about something completely unrelated, like I'm doing right now, and that's not in the script, it won't start moving. It'll stay right where it was until it hears you say the beginning or a little bit of a sentence that is in the script, then it will start moving again. It's perfect. You can come off completely natural with a teleprompter in front of you in a way that you could never do otherwise. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found some tidbits to extract. It's certainly a product of, oh, good gosh, probably 7 years of brain damage, maybe a lifetime of brain damage. I don't know. But I appreciate you watching. I wish you success with the product or podcast or whatever you're trying to get off the ground with your studio experience. I hope you make a ton of money, and more importantly, I hope you get an opportunity to accomplish the things that you want to with that money and hopefully make the world a better place for all of us. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.